Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to episode 12 of Ladies of the Empire. Here with Niner
Hey,
Lady, Nina, and we have our special guest, Melissa.
hey,
So I hope
Melissa.
everybody, how are you ladies today?
Go ahead, Melissa.
I'm a little depressed. I was watching Colorado get spanked by the Ducks earlier.
Oh, honey, wasn't that disgusting? I couldn't even watch the rest of the third quarter. Okay, I what was
As
the last I saw was like 42 to zip.
I was 35-0 when I clicked off. I couldn't keep watching it. It was just so disgusting. And then I was on X and everyone's like slamming him, and it's just I had to unplug from everything right then. It was
See,
crazy.
that's why I said I watched the Three Stooges. Okay.
There's
uh,
nothing wrong with that show. That's a great show.
but yeah, I'm good. Trying to survive this crazy weather. It's definitely sweatshirt weather here on the East Coast with the rain and
W
the
season.
wind. You know, what is it? The first full day of fall, so I'm kind of like ticked off because I'm a summer baby. But if it weren't for football, I'd probably be in a corner somewhere with a bottle. Wake me up when it turns summer again.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
but yeah, I'm blessed by the best, so life is good.
Very good. I do want to apologize in advance. I'm a little croaky today because one of those things you sacrifice when you go to the stadium is your voice. If it's the first to go, that's all right. I'll take no voice for a W any day.
Hey, Dawn, Randy, Ryan, what's up?
Yes, thank you everybody for tuning in. Always appreciated. We're going to have us a great show, plenty of content, plenty of opinion, and yeah, any day you're talking Niners, you know it's a great day.
Of course.
So we have definitely had a winning streak. Definitely season only just started. We're only on game 3, but the intriguing thing is each game we have won and scored 30 points, which is kind of wild.
Mhm.
So, it's nice to know that they're so far so good, and I hope that they can keep up with this and pick up speed as we go as far as whatever adjustments offense and defense are going to need to make. I hope that they can make those swiftly so that way we can keep up a winning streak. And I know we can't win all of the games, but if in fact they can, let's do it.
Yeah, we can.
And that would be awesome.
It would be.
So there's certain things that when you watch, you're like, oh, okay, the offense is looking good, defense is looking good. And you're like, okay, cool. But here, so we have a situation where the offense made 2 of the 5 red zone attempts. So we had a total of 5 red zone attempts, only made 2. 3, unfortunately, were lost. So the question is, what part of the offense is currently the weakest link in the end zone, in the red zone?
The weakest link, I would say again, getting out there. I mean, you got to remember the Giants were on us like I don't know what, but there were a few times where there were men open, guys were open, and I don't think Purdy saw it.
Mhm.
A few times Jennings was wide open, Juice was wide open, and I don't think he saw it. And not it's not to discredit him, but I don't think he saw it until like later on. But the coverage all depends on who we're playing too. The coverage was there, but we had a few little gaps where they could have made it in had he seen the receivers open and the guys who were open like right there. I mean, all Juice had to do was back up 2 steps. He was in the end zone. But unfortunately, Purdy didn't hits in his face. So, you can't help that. But I wouldn't call it a weakness. I think it just needs to be like look more, scan the field maybe a little quicker. I mean, because he did a great job at it.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's my thought on it. What about you, Melissa?
I have a couple. I think the number one, and it's a continued issue, so it's not just on this one player, but the continued issue of being way too comfortable, letting down after down go away, and then just accepting the field goals. Um, I don't think it's a Mooney issue. I think it's just a team issue. Like they get way too comfortable, and they always just settle for 3 points. So I think that's just a continued issue. I think it also hurts when we get stupid penalties in the red zone, and that either backs us up or costs us downs. So those are two of my biggest issues. I also think another issue is that we kind of get too comfortable with the big names on this team. So it's either you go for Kittle, which hasn't been a thing this year, but you go for Brandon Ayuk, you go for Debo Samuel, you go for Christian McCaffrey, and you kind of forget that there's all these other all stars like a Javon Jennings who's taller, bigger, stronger, more adept at not really giving a crap if guys are around him and will make a play. Whether he
Hmm.
catches it or not is based on if you believe in Javon Jennings. I'm a Javon Jennings believer, but I, I think those are some of the bigger issues. Um, I think sometimes Shanahan just gets too cute, and he wants like these big like ESPN kind of plays in the end zone. It's just like, can we please just take what we have? Like, you don't have to have these big time. I mean, as much as I love them, you don't need the Ayuk touchdown against the Steelers game where it's right there in his hands and it's against a Patrick Peterson. You don't need the Debo Samuel plays. You don't need those plays where it's like it's a contested catch. It's like, can we just take what's given to us? So those are like really my main issues, especially in red zone play.
Definitely. And it's like you notice that they'll go and run Debo, several times, to try to get a first down, which is great. Debo is awesome. But there are certain times with, so many different people on our offense that you can utilize. Sometimes it's like, hey, you've already made it through 2 or 3 downs with this one person. They didn't make it happen. Instead of, being on a third and out, then why don't we try somebody else before we have to go that far? Because um, like you said, we shouldn't be, comfortable with just, oh, it's okay. We're close enough to get the 3 points. The 3 points are appreciated. They do help. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, if you're trying to smash on the next team, how are you going to, portray, keeping up with the defense or the offense if you're not scoring? You can go score 3 points and the offense comes back on the field and then they go score 7 on you. And then now you have to go and you have no choice. You have to go and score a touchdown. You can't go and like, oh, a kick's going to save us. No, not this time because you didn't get the touchdown in the first place. So you can
Yeah.
definitely tell they're trying, but
Yeah, we
there's
have
definitely
too many. Yeah, we have too many weapons that have to be utilized.
mhm.
You know, at the football party I was at Thursday night, everybody was like, "Oh, he's going to run. Shanahan's going to run the heck out of CMC. He's going to run him all night." And I said, "Yeah, maybe, but you forget we got a lot of tricks up our sleeves, and
Mhm.
sometimes you need to pull those tricks out of your sleeve
Yeah,
and
he
not
started
run
using
CMC all the time."
absolutely. Like he actually started using a little bit more of Mitchell, and that was nice. Mitchell didn't gain as much, but just the fact that it's him on the field, getting a couple yards, it's nice to know that CMC is going to stay healthy because
Yeah,
not
and
every
he had
game.
an yeah, and not to cut you off, Tony, but he there was a time when Mason was in toward
Mhm.
the fourth near the end of the fourth quarter, and I'm like, "Where you been all my life?"
Yeah,
You
we got to
know?
use those guys. Especially if it's a team that. So there was a lot of people that were hurt with the Giants, and the Giants have always been a tough team for the Niners because you never know what to expect with them. You think you have them, under your belt, and then next thing you know, you're losing to them, and we don't like that. But with them having Saquon Barkley and him being, their best running back, and then a key point to their offense, our defense should not have. And they didn't struggle because honestly, the defense did a lot. They did a lot better against the Giants than I thought they were. But
Mhm.
it just kinda makes you wonder, like, with the offense and the defense, like, we've been up against 3 different teams now. We didn't know necessarily how it was gonna happen, as far as win or loss for the Steelers. A lot of people weren't concerned, but, some people will tell you, "Hey, Steelers, Giants, that's an iffy." But, since being up against these teams and winning like we've done, and with still there being a lot of football left to play, it makes you wonder,
Mhm.
have these been the easy games? Because I know we are going to be facing a couple other competitors, and, it just makes you wonder is with this offense, are they going to be holding up when we get down the road to these other competitors, such as Lamar Jackson, or when we have to go and face Deshaun Watson, any of those other guys that are just a little bit better than, no discredit to Stafford, but the Rams are junk. They have nobody right
Yeah.
now. And the Steelers, they're working with a rookie quarterback, but they have great players.
Well,
And
you got to
then
look at what the Giants did with us. I mean, they were blitzing like crazy.
oh yeah, they blitzed us big time. They really
I
did.
did
And
not expect them to do that.
It,
I
it
expected
actually,
us to do that.
I mean, it actually makes sense because Wink Martindale's from that Ravens defensive coaching thing where they always do that against young quarterbacks. It's like a bend but don't break thing. Granted, it was broken, but they kept doing it anyway. But I think they were just trying to embarrass Purdy and get in his head, and it didn't happen. And
Mhm.
so I understood why on Thursday, we didn't really go outside of the normal people because Kyle has this thing and it irritates me to no end. But when things get close, when things aren't easy, he doesn't want to really allow young players to get a shot. Like he really
Mhm.
wants the people he trusts, the people who are veterans, the people who he knows will handle that pressure well. And he doesn't really take chances. And so that kind of pissed me off because I felt like this was the perfect game to test a Ty Davis Price or a Jordan Mason or these younger players. And you kind of saw that Ronnie Bell was the exception because, he had that big play on special teams. But I feel like um, you kind of can't wait for 2019 Panther games. You can't kind of wait for teams to just no show and then allow younger guys to play. And I think that's um, whatever coverage you're getting in, there's going to be a lot of defenses this year that we play, whether it's a Miles Garrett or it's Roquan Smith and the Ravens or whatever that are down the line that are going to kind of test whether Shanahan takes the reins off and lets the young players play, or he just keeps playing the veterans until they're broken down and you're forced into playing them. And that's kind of my pet peeve with this offense. It's not that we're not stacked, it's that we just never really let it up until injuries, and that's my fear. Like we had 2 games in 4 days. Like there should have been a bigger idea there besides letting Christian McCaffrey just have another touchdown and running for 100+ yards. Like there was no point in that. Like it was not necessary. Like it it baffles me really.
Well, it baffles all of us, and Thursday proved it. Okay, Thursday, Thursday proved it. I mean, it took a lot of what expectations we might have had, except for
Mhm.
Tony. She was too busy screaming. Um, Probably saying, "You're right, right." Um, it took a lot of the expectations that we had already built up in our heads, and it didn't materialize. So again, I've learned over the years. Shanahan's not the he hasn't been there since I've been a fan, but um, expect the unexpected because what I think and what you think ain't what he thinks, you know.
That's true.
Because if we were out there, it'd be another story. I'm just saying. Okay.
yeah, like maybe
Um,
some of the games where we don't see that we need to have our game winners out there. Not that they shouldn't get any targets. Everybody wants to develop great stats by the end of the year. It does help their portfolio. But it's like when you're in a fourth quarter and you already know you've got the win in the bag, you're already going home with a W. Maybe don't run CMC so often. And I don't care if that man looks at the coach and says, "Hey, I'm not getting off this field." You look at that man and tell him, "The hell you not. You are getting off
Get the
this field.
step in, buddy.
I'm coming in."
Well,
See,
that's
I
why I
agree.
was shocked when they had Mason in.
See, that's where I agree, and it also baffles me because you remember in 2019, before we got all the newer stars that we have now, when George Kittle was banged up against Buda Baker because Jimmy and his hospital balls, they sat him out. They literally put him up in the box, and they're like, "You're not even allowed on our field. You're not allowed to goof around, walk around, pace around. Like you're not gonna put any extra pressure on your injuries." And that's what's making now so weird. It's like it was only a couple years ago, but why are we
Mm.
putting Brendan Ayuk in, taking him out because he gets another big shock on his injury? We're putting him back in, and then we're taking him out again. It's just like we all expect to be in the playoffs. Like that's not questioned right now if we stay mostly healthy. So
Mm.
if you're thinking 17 regular season games plus the playoffs, when these guys start getting nicked up and you have other healthy options that aren't being inactive healthy, why are we not going and playing those players? Like these guys
Giving him
are
more
all vets.
time.
These guys are all vets at this point. Well, it's different levels of vets, but it's just it's aggravating because like okay, I can give up pass breakups and sacks and all the fancy stuff on defense, but what I can't, and because I'm such a fan of defense, but I can't stand that the offense is just taking so many risks and further endangering our defense to look bad at the end of the year because they're going to be so exhausted making it for the offense if we keep doing the same silly stuff now. Like it,
Yeah.
you have to think
Yeah.
long term, especially on a short week.
Well, especially
Mhm.
on a short week. I agree with you. I agree with you. Tony, what
Yes.
else do you have in store for us? Because I know Melissa and I can talk about offense and defense all damn night.
Well, I do. While we're going to segue. We're going to still talk about the offense, but it's going to go offense and defense. Let's talk about penalties. So we had a total of
Okay.
6 penalties that were against us. Um,
Hmm.
I think there was actually a total of 8, but 2 of those were offsetted. But we have a total of 6 for 71 yards. What is it about? And most of these are offensive holding calls. One being defensive holding. 2, let's see. We have a Greenlaw with the unnecessary roughness. There was
Which
Isaiah Oliver.
the Greenlaw one
So
was,
what is the deal? I'm sorry.
I have to talk about the Greenlaw one because not only do I love Jake Greenlaw, but I thought that was the most ridiculous thing ever
That was
because
bogus.
that was called after the whistle was blown. Like he was holding before the whistle was blown. They've proven it. They've shown it.
Yeah.
Um, Sean Gibson even talked about it. He's like, they reviewed it. They proved that that was flagged after the whistle. And
Mm-hmm.
I think in the Giants game, especially, you want to call it New York bias, whatever, but it was pretty obvious that they were trying to influence the fans, the media, the coverage by not showing all the different looks and making it look like Greenlaw took a shot after the whistle. They did the same thing when Trent Williams, where he throws the punch, and they kept just showing the angle of Trent out of nowhere just punching the guy. They didn't show
They didn't show the beginning of that.
They didn't show Aaron Banks being shoved. They didn't show the punch thrown at Trent Williams' throat. They didn't show
Right.
any of the lead up. They didn't show any of the stuff that was scuffled beforehand. They just made it look like, okay, this is Trent Williams from Philadelphia again, just like throwing haymakers at players. Like this is just Trent Williams picking on his former division. This is a complete hack job of players, and it really irritates me because now every time there's a defensive call, like the Steelers game, everyone kept saying, "Well, is it 57?" And it was not. It was Diamador Lenore who happened to hit the player
Yeah.
going out of
Yeah.
bounds. But that's
Yeah.
exactly what I see all over my Twitter feed every freaking time. It's like, is it Drake Greenlaw doing another stupid thing? And it's not. Like even last year, it wasn't that he took a shot at Justin Herbert. It was Jimmy Ward rolling him into Drake Greenlaw. Like these narratives I think are so dangerous, especially with defenders. Like they have such a small window to actually play defense now without hurting themselves or further players that play around them. And you saw it with Minka Fitzpatrick and Nick Chubb. Like you
Yeah.
tell them you can't go high, you can't go low, and Nick Chubb gets hurt. But everyone keeps forgetting that Minka Fitzpatrick was also in the hospital that night. He had a chest contusion. Like
Hmm.
everyone's trying to paint him as the sturdy, awful player who took out the Browns' best player, but it's just like,
No,
and it doesn't help when the fans attack too, even
it
their own
doesn't
fan
help.
base.
It doesn't help at all, Melissa. I agree with you, and it also doesn't help with the uh the calling, especially after the whistle. I mean, everybody clearly saw that, and for everybody to keep harping on, oh, Trent did this, Trent did. Well, did you see what happened like 10 seconds before Trent did that?
Yeah.
Did you see what led up to that point? No, they're not going to discuss that. It's
Mm-mm.
like, like a friend of mine said Thursday night, the refs have selective seeing.
Yes, I
you
agree.
know, and Tony, I mean, like that was just one example of some of the goofy penalties. So, I mean, you said there were six. I would say it's about nine. I saw about nine, eight of
Yeah.
which I didn't agree with.
Yeah, there was,
you know,
I think there was at least 8. I know 2 so the Isaiah Oliver defensive holding was an offset, and then the
yes,
Trent Williams unnecessary roughness was an
yeah,
offset, which I thought was ridiculous. And then we had the, John Charles, or I'm not too sure if but, he did the fair catch interference, and that cost us 15 yards. And then
mm-hmm,
everything else was offensive holding. So, it's
Uh,
kinda
Trey
it's
Swilling also had another special teams gaffe two in the week, which is why I think they cut him.
yeah.
yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point, and that's some of the things we need to clean up on. I mean, that pass interference call. It's like,
And
dude,
there's
really?
not so many flags that they throw. So it does seem like they're reoccurring, but it always seems like the Niners have it's them against themselves. There's always the situation where they're doing great and it's not like they're doing anything wrong except for the fact that the flag gets thrown. And
Yeah,
there's so many different ways that we look at it, just like, as fans watching the game. It's like, hey, like we said, did you see 10 seconds before you called that flag on Trent? What happened? No, you only seen what you want to see, but you can't go and do that because a lot of things that we see the Niners are paying for because some of these refs just choose, like you said, like, hey, selective seeing. I see this, I'm calling it. But a couple plays down the road when the next offense is on the field, they do the same exact thing and nobody gets called. There's
yeah,
been so many
yeah.
different times that I've seen like a pass interference that should have been called, but they don't call it. But just as soon as one of our guys breathes on a wide receiver, that's it. They're flag.
I,
It's
you
like,
know,
what's
and
going
and
on?
yeah, because like I, I said to one of my friends Thursday night, and I hadn't even started drinking yet, and I said, wait a minute, is it my eyesight or is like the Giants holding like crazy and nobody's seeing it?
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
what I've
and
definitely seen.
he's like, yeah, yeah, nobody's saying anything. I said, yeah, I mean, it's clear, it's right there. And a stupid ref, I don't know if he was picking his nose or adjusting his cap, but the hold was right. He's right on the line, and he doesn't see that the guy is like all all over him.
It's like, how do you miss
Are
that?
you serious? And you're right there, like 5 feet away,
I think
and you
the
don't
most
see it?
I think the
That's
most egregious
ridiculous.
I think the most egregious part though wasn't the calls against the Niners on Thursday. I think the most egregious was the calls made for the Niners on Thursday. And I don't think that's being talked about enough because um, a lot of people are attacking Leonard Williams being flagged for landing on Brock Purdy, and they're saying it's not fair because what is he supposed to do? Lose like 20 pounds before he actually tackles up Brock Purdy? But he landed fully on Brock Purdy, and it irritates me because it reminds me of when Nick Bosa would get a call if he has like a forearm land on a quarterback, and that would cost us 6 points or whatever. And it's just like such a double standard now that we're being called the villains for these calls that we're actually benefiting from. Um, when it's by the letter of the law, it irritates me the last couple of days that that's become the story, that Leonard Williams was unfairly being picked on, or when I think it was Kayvon Thibodeau hit George Kittle um near the red zone, and we got that call and we got a new set of downs. It's just like that's the letter of the law, and these things are just building and building and building and building. And I think as fans, if we have a social media, whether it's exhausting or not, I think it's actually our responsibility to keep pointing these things out, because these things keep happening, and it's irritating, because I think sooner or later these things are the things that are going to actually cost us big games or big moments. And it's unfair for these teams to benefit on certain areas where it's Tua getting calls because of what has happened to him, or it's our team where we're getting screwed over because of these kind of calls. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really sad, because it shouldn't come to that. It should come down to who's having the better day, who has the more talented roster. And it feels like too often it's coming down to who's more preferred, or who's giving people more money because of fantasy. So
Mhm.
Well, welcome to the age of social media. Okay, because speaking from one who saw football before all this Twitter and X and whatever the hell it is out there now, what we saw with John Madden and Pat Summerall, that was it. Okay, and they commented, and we saw it. Case closed. You talked about it for 2 days. You didn't see everything. You didn't analyze everything. But I agree with you. But we got away with a lot, and other teams got away with a lot.
Mhm.
Now it's full fledged out there within 6 seconds. You know, I don't know. I'm old school. And shout out to my boy Damien. I agree with you, brother.
I know it's kind of funny because when you think about it, back at the time when you had Joe Montana playing, if we had social media, would they be talking about him the same way they do Brock Purdy or Kaepernick or anybody for that fact?
No,
Like,
no.
there's
Oh,
things that you can
But
document because you have proof, but then there's
yeah,
other
yeah,
things you just talk about.
yeah.
it,
I
and
mean,
I don't
I
think
mean, got so many cameras and stuff now. So I mean, it's
and
out there.
this whole Brock Purdy thing now is so ridiculous, how everyone is cheering for him to fail or look awful, or to bleed, or be down by 30. It's just like, can't you just like enjoy the story? Like, and it's not unheard of for a late round quarterback to succeed. You have Tom Brady, you have Kurt Warner, who was undrafted, and it feels like it's so many people rooting against him. Or to make fun of him for how he looks. It's just it's so ridiculous. Like,
Hmm.
It's very upsetting because it's like, how is a quarterback supposed to look? I didn't know that there was a particular way any quarterback successful should look. It's if they can get out there and score, doesn't matter if they're 10 feet tall, 4 feet tall. If they get the job done, that's all that should
Hey,
matter.
watch it with that 4 feet business.
no, but like you also cheered for quarterbacks that never fit the mold. You cheered for Russell
You're supposed
Wilson.
to.
You
Mhm.
cheered for Kyler Murray. People were cheering for Drew Brees. Like, none of these people fit that mold, and yet for some reason this one quarterback is succeeding with a team that people don't want to give appreciation to or love outside of us. And it's just anything and everything that
Melissa,
they can take advantage of, they take advantage of.
Melissa,
I know.
people have been hating on the 49ers since 1946. Okay? And they're
I
going to continue to
I
hate.
understand that. Okay, but you don't understand. Like, in my family, I'm the only
They're going
Niner
to
fan.
continue. I
I'm the
come
only
from a
Niner fan.
family of
Like,
Eagles.
my parents are Giant fans now. I mean, one of them is a topsy turvy woman who changes her team every like couple weeks. But my brother's diehard Chiefs fan. Like, and whenever it's my team against any other team, like, my family hates the Cowboys. Okay, when it comes to the Niners versus the Cowboys in the playoffs, guess who they were rooting for?
The Niners.
Cowboys.
Dallas. Dallas.
What?
Mhm.
Yes. Okay, they refuse to root for the Niners under any circumstance. Niners versus Seahawks, Seahawks. Niners
See,
versus the Chiefs, Chiefs. So I'm used to it, but I hate that national media is also against me. It's just like, can't I just have
always.
break
Because they want to be
ever?
us. Don't you understand, sweetheart? They want to be us. And they can't be us because we're too cute. Okay?
And that's what makes it
Because
so
we
nice.
got skills to pay the bills. All right?
Yeah,
They can't be
skills.
us.
There's a dynasty that's been, a foundation that's been established for us as a fan base, as future generations of these different players that are coming to the organization. There's just so much history with this team, and I think that's what makes a lot of these fans maybe so emotional about it. And even those who are over emotional, about their opinions and stuff, you can see exactly where they're coming from because the dedication as a fan to your team, that takes a lot of time and effort and a lot of joy too. And then when it
Mhm.
comes to watching your team win or lose, you're always there. And, so it doesn't matter if the guy that's throwing the football under center isn't your guy. It's the story that is going to be written right now is going to be talked about for generations. And even if Brock Purdy doesn't turn out to be the guy who's going to get us whatever, we're just hoping because that's all at the end of the day you could do. It's the organization chose this guy. We have to roll with it. We don't have to
That's
like
right.
it. We don't have to
Mm-mm.
agree with it. But as long as you want to be a Niner fan and you want to be happy about being a Niner supporter, then sometimes you just have to kind of see the benefit of even something that you don't agree with. Because at the end of the day, we all want number 6. We all just want
Yeah.
that number 6. And
Hey, Melissa, you want to hear something goofy?
Mm,
My father, God rest his soul, is a diehard Eagle fan. All right. He did not, he never understood my love of the SNF. He never understood it. Okay. My mom worked for the Eagles, everything, whole 9 yards. Okay. He got involved with the 49ers watching our games. You know why? Because of Colin Kaepernick. Because Colin Kaepernick is in the same fraternity that my dad was in. So he's like, well, I got to watch my frat brother and see what he does. Oh, to hell with your daughter, but you want to watch your frat brother, right? Okay. Give you another goofy scenario. The Pigeons won the Super Bowl that year.
Mhm.
I didn't really watch it. I was like, My father called me wanting me to be happy.
Oh.
I said, Dad, I cannot be happy because you know how I feel about the Pigeons. Okay. I cannot be happy. He says, well, I'm happy when your Niners win. I said, oh, really? Oh, really? You hung up on me the last time we won and we beat you guys. So, they're always going to be haters, but you got to move on and you got to carry the team with pride, right? And
Absolutely.
Elmer Fudd could be our quarterback, but I would still be a Niner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And people are going to talk about us and try to see every illogical point that's going to happen. And they're going to try to look at all the negativity and all the BS, but they can't back it up because we have legacy.
That's right.
Okay. Because we're good looking.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Because ain't nothing finer than a Niner.
All right. Go ahead, Tony.
Well, you know what's
I
also
need another
exciting?
drink.
Oh gosh. I know, I'm over here double fisting. I have something cold for when I need it, and then something warm to soothe my croaky throat.
I have both warm and cold in the same glass, honey. Go ahead.
We went through that game, and there was a guy. I think the guy's name was Nick. He was like the organizer or whatever, the one in charge of us all in the group. And I swear that man said, you're gonna give me your voice. And man, he was not lying. He was not lying. And I can proudly say I am so glad I gave up my voice I don't like sound like a dude, but that's okay because we got the W. I had the time of my life. I got to meet Steve Young with my best friend. I was like, oh my God, this day can't get any better.
Brian got his
Yeah.
jacket signed by Steve Young.
Yes, he did.
Uh-huh.
It was so funny. So we're standing there on this field. They said, oh, we got one more surprise for you. Didn't even know we're going on the field. And the guy's like, I got one more surprise. You want to go on the football field? They're like, yeah. So it takes us a few minutes to get down there, but we're finally down there. I'm like, oh God, such a big kid. I had to touch the grass. So I'm like, all right. And then there's this guy, the people in the security, whatever, big old bright yellow jackets. And he's like, hey, Steve Young's over there. We're like, what? He's like, yeah. So David McNiner, Brent, me, we're like looking around and we find him. We're like, oh wow. So we finally make our way over there, kind of skeptically, like, ooh, can we just go over there and approach the guy? Because we'll bomb rush him. And we did. Just as soon as we seen everybody else talking to him, we're like, let's go. And we did. We made it right over there to him. And I have never seen two grown men happier in my entire life. Oh my gosh, just the size of the smiles on Bryant's face and David's face was just incredible. I was like, I'm having a great day. And it was great. And then I will have to say this. Shout out to Steve Young. He is such a gentleman. He is kind, compassionate. I mean, at any time when Bryant was talking to him or any fan, he could have been like, yeah, whatever. Just here's your signature. Get out of my face. But he wasn't like that. Bryant was telling him his story. He literally had this look in his face like you would see a father giving to a son or a grandfather giving to a grandchild. And he wrapped his arm around Bryant and he to me, I was just like, oh my God. Like he loves you, Bryant. He loves you.
I would have fainted that right then and there. It
was an incredible experience. And Bryant and I knew before we even showed up that this is a once in a lifetime experience. But to have went through that and to figure like what exactly it turned out to be, truly once in a lifetime.
Right.
I hope to one day meet him again. There's a lot of legends I'd like to meet. Jerry Rice, Joe Montana, plenty of them.
Mm-hmm.
Just to have met at least one of the GOATs so far, I'm like, yes, Steve Young, yes.
Yes, my hefty lefty.
Mm-hmm. And on top of that, during the game, so Ronnie Bell talked a whole bunch about him during preseason. We finally see him score his first NFL touchdown. How was that for you, ladies?
Go ahead, Melissa.
I was more excited for the special teams play, if I'm being honest. Special teams this year has been a little on and off for me. Aside from Jake Moody and Mitch Snowski. So for me to see that and to see him kind of gain everyone's favor, like I think, especially with the receivers, correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like you kind of gotta get attached to these these preseason darlings or these training camp darlings, where these stories of these guys breaking out or doing well, and then you kind of get burned, and they don't really translate, and then so for him to step up that big and to kind of come up big, not only for his touchdown, but I thought what was much more impressive was his tip drill catch, the one that Debo hit and then got tipped up to Ronnie Bell, and he made the initiative to actually pull that play off in a crucial moment. I think that was far more impressive. I think it was also smart because I think too many young players when they come in, depending on how long they play in college, they don't like go to college rules, or it's too much muscle memory. So these kids are taught all you need is one foot, right? And I thought it was a huge moment when after the game he's being interviewed at his locker and he's like, I get just remembering in my head, this is the NFL. You have to keep 2 feet in. And too many people with the bright lights and being the only team on, um, they kind of just forget in that moment, or they try to do the big touchdown celebrations first before they really catch the ball, or they get too wrapped up in the moment. And I felt like that was more impressive for me, the way he kept his head, and then afterwards, him being emotional when he's handed the ball that George Kittle saved and everything else at his locker. I think those are what made his performance so special. It's like all these things together just made that so worth seeing him just shine in his moment. So I think it was much
Absolutely.
more than
Yeah.
just a touchdown catch.
Yeah, I was glad to see him. I was glad to see him get the touchdown. I was glad to see him out there,
Mhm.
participate and being in the game, um, especially after watching him in a preseason. I was really hyped to see him out there because as a young, young player, uh, and then doing what he did, and like you said, staying humble, and the picture of him sitting in the locker room holding the football. I mean, that just like got to me. I'm like, yeah, dude, you did it. You're in,
Mhm.
man.
Mhm.
Um, but to see him out there and doing what he did, I mean, you talk about horse, honey. You weren't by yourself because I was the only female around 10 guys, and my mouth was heard. And and when
Gotta
he
be
did
loud and
that, yeah, and when he caught that ball after it ricocheted off of the, and I was just like, I scared everybody in a restaurant because I just like screamed bloody murder. I couldn't believe it. Um, but they got stripped something, but it was so inspiring to see a young guy out there and doing it,
Mhm.
and he continued in the momentum of the game. I mean, he just continued doing him, and that's great. I was psyched for him, and then seeing the picture of him later on, like I said, holding the ball in the locker room, that just got to me, and I was just like, "You go, dude."
Definitely.
Because you lost your voice. Well, let me tell you something. I had to get up and do morning prayer at 5:30 in the morning
Oh my
on
god.
Facebook. So you should have heard me. I'm Dina L. Harvey, representing the parishes of. I'm here to do morning prayer with you. I'm sorry, but the game was good last night. You know,
That's all right.
I sound like a priest who had too much. But uh, but yeah, I was pumped up for him, and I hope that that momentum continues.
Especially, and it's enticing. It's like even though they're sports athletes, they're entertainment stars, celebrities, they are still people. And
Hmm.
just like regular everyday people, anytime when you can find your milestone, it's just something that encourages you to keep finding the next ones because each milestone is a stepping stone. It's another opportunity for you. And a lot of people express their opinion about, um, oh gosh, oh my god, I'm so sorry. A lot of people, I get so distracted with what's going on outside my door. I'm like, wait, what am I talking about? But a lot of people, they refer to him as
Focus.
a Debo and a Ayuk 2.0. So
Mm.
I see that. I really do because um, he's out
if I
there.
was if
And
I was gonna give him any credit, I'd give him a Nayuk and Jawan Jennings combination, not a Debo. I felt like, because for me, Ayuk was special because Ayuk was that first receiver that we got to play and brought that kind of Kittle mentality, the Pierre Garcon mentality, where they were not going to wait for their opportunities; they were going to just take them. And
playmakers. Mhm.
I remember the moment I fell in love with Brandon Knight. It was at MetLife, and I hate that stadium because it's in my home state and it's just so awful. But I remember he got so impatient, right? Because he didn't play week one, because he was injured in preseason, and he was just like, "Screw this!" And he jumped that route in front of Kendrick Bourne. And he's like, "This is my ball," and
Hmm.
just after that, he just took off. And I felt like Ronnie Bell really has those kind of same kind of attributes without like being a little cockier because he's a seventh round pick. And for me, I love anyone from like rounds through undrafted. Like that's kind of become my niche, especially after Shanahan got here. Um, and so for a lot of people who kind of like doubted Ronnie Bell because he's like 7th round, or he's from Michigan, or because they thought he could be stashed on the practice squad. For him to have that big moment and to kind of like steal some of the thunder from the other Michigan star, Jake Moody, was special for me.
That's right. Shout out to Michigan for giving us your stars.
Well,
No,
Melissa,
and
you and I are like sisters in loving, not loving, but really liking Jawan Jennings. So
I will die on that
that's
hill. I've hated on content creators. Like, I actually stopped watching somebody who would call me out every single time I went on a specific show just for loving Juwan Jennings. Like, he would like get up in my face, call me out specifically every single show for daring to love or want to give any kind of credit to Juwan Jennings. Like, this guy went full on after me, and I've actually pulled away from the main show that he was on because I was like,
yeah.
I can't do this anymore. It's exhausting. And I would go in there, and every time I felt like I would say hi and everything else, and I'm trying to be nice and I'm trying to keep my mouth shut. And it's just like, it got so exhausting at that point because it's just like, I hate Kyle Yushik. Everyone knows I hate Kyle Yushik, but I don't make people miserable for them loving him. Like, it's just it's a mentality thing. Like, you don't have
Yeah.
to love who other people love, but you don't also have
No.
to make someone miserable for who they like. And so that's why
Exactly. But I mean, like I knew that from a long time ago when I was on I forget what podcast I was on, and I mentioned Jennings, and you were like, "Yeah, Jennings, my
I
man,"
love
and I was
Joel
like,
Jackson.
"See,
I
now
have him.
now I got a
I
friend."
have him on my Twitter. He is my header. I
you
actually
know,
insisted on Lou like putting on his like at Get Him Boy tag on it because I
yeah.
wanted to use his design. I'm like, and then he actually put my tag on it, and then he put his Shanna 2 thing on it, and everything else that's been my header aside from the playoffs when he asked me to change it. But it's just like
Yeah.
Jawan Jennings, Diamador Lador, or Drake Greenlaw. I will forever stand by these guys no matter how much hate they get. And the funny
Mhm.
part was Dina. Okay, so this is a big game for me because my dad actually is a Giants fan, and my entire family was rooting for the Giants. But get this, after the game, not only did I get the privilege of getting to go on with nothing but Niners, who are most of them are from New
Mhm.
Jersey, if not the East
Right.
Coast. But right before I logged on, and Mike made this exception of letting me on because him and I have a rapport, and he's kind of why I became part of this whole community online and met so many people. I want a Drake Greenlaw jersey. It is my very first jersey. I've never owned a jersey in my entire
Okay.
life. And not only do I get to own a 94 throwback jersey, but it's signed. And
Ooh,
it's going to be here on Monday. And I've been like
excellent.
pinching myself ever since Thursday because I'm like,
Good.
is this really a
making
real
sure it's
thing
not a
that's
dream.
happening?
Yeah.
Like, am I really getting like my like almost because like the my favorite my favorite jersey is the red throwbacks with the gold
Mhm.
around the
Mhm.
numbers. Like, I think that's
Yeah.
the most beautiful jersey. And to have the next best thing to that, because they've never brought those back, and it has to be one of my favorite players of all time, right behind Cowboy Justin Smith. And for him to have touched it and signed it, like, I don't know what I want more. Do I want to like put it up on my wall first and like just show it off with all the other stuff that I've been lucky enough to win, or do I want to wear it? Like,
Oh,
it's just
he'll
like
wear it.
Yeah, you got to
Wear
rock it
it,
up.
then hang it on a wall.
Definitely.
Hey,
That is
Tony, I got a question for you.
all right.
Now, what we saw on TV, I'm sure you saw in real life. You were there. Did
Mhm.
the right side look as it did on TV?
There was times where it looked a little weak, kind of concerning, and there's a lot going on, and we weren't as close to the field. We had kind of like a
Mm,
bird's eye view, so you were able to. There were some things that I could see better on the jumbotron than really like watching it on the field. But I did notice that the right side was a little weak, but it wasn't. See, one of the good things is that so Purdy, he got sacked twice that game, I think. So I know that
Was
that hurts a lot.
yeah.
But I know that McKivitz is definitely. I don't know what to say about him because I'm trying to stay positive and faithful, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to be hopeful. But
Well, he did a
there's
little
no,
better, but it still looked like in shambles.
definitely like there shouldn't be people running through you, and it just sometimes you watch these guys and they look lost. And me not understanding necessarily how everything is broken down as far as, when offense and defense are lining up, all you see is everybody break apart when the ball snapped. But there's certain times where you watch these guys that are on the line, on the offensive line, and they're trying to block this defensive line. And it seems like you see McKivitz, he's like there, and it's like there's a guy running on his left side towards our quarterback, but he's paying attention to the one guy that's over here on the right. And it's almost like he hesitates, like he's looking over here, like he's going to stop, but then he goes on this side, and you can see the hesitation because with him paying more attention now, looking
Hmm.
at the other guy, now there's somebody else blowing through his blind side, getting to our quarterback, and
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting because with them blitzing, and then having a little bit of a weak line that I think that hurt us a little bit. I think that's kind of why. See, we had 30 points. It's not like we didn't have a producing game, but it's just the way that our offense was able to do that. And slowly but surely, they were able to put those points up. I mean, like a whole first quarter, we did one field goal. It was only a 28-yarder. And we didn't
Hmm.
make our first touchdown until the second quarter. And we made two, which is great. But then third quarter again, a whole quarter, only just a field goal. And then at the
Right.
end, then we had that last touchdown. So it does make me wonder how that right side is going to hold up,
Yeah.
and especially with the
I
penalties.
Yeah, and the other thing too, like with I was watching my man Armstead. I like Eric Armstead.
Mhm.
He reminds me of a big teddy bear, but an overgrown teddy bear. I probably come up to his navel, you know. But um I was watching him and they I mean for him coming up the middle, they really blocked him a lot, but he got away by going low and past them. And I was like, "Oh, okay, dude. He's going to do the little let me crawl on my knees and get the block in." And he did that. And I was shocked for his size. That he did that. And that allowed Bosa to get in
Mhm.
the way he did,
Mhm.
which
He
I think
registered his first sack just this last game,
that was
his
his first
very
set.
his very first sack,
And I
and
think if they do that kind of momentum, um, we got it. And I think there's going to be a lot more sacks between him, Dre Jackson,
mhm, Hargrave.
Hargrave. Oh my God. If I even saw him, I'd be like, you know what, dude? Here's the ball. Don't even look in my direction. Just take
Yeah.
it. Okay. All right. Just take it. Go away.
Mhm.
Um, Hargrave, Jackson, Bosa. I mean, if they can make a way for Bosa to make that cut where the other team didn't know that he was going to do that,
Mhm.
oh man, it's going to be sack a game. It's got to be.
Definitely, and it kinda makes me
Definitely.
wonder is how many more games is it gonna take for our offense and defense to play before they're finally dialed in?
Mm. Well, look at what's coming up. We got the little Redbirds, right?
Mhm. We got them just coming up, and then the
Yeah,
Cowboys after that.
right. Okay. So we got to watch them because I was watching some of that game and they were played. Who did they play before? And I was watching the
They've
game.
played the Commanders and they've played
Ye-
the Giants so far, and
Yeah,
they're about to play the Cowboys this week.
that's right. Because the Giants eventually won that game.
They smashed
Mhm.
them. Mhm.
Yeah.
But
But
here,
their offense
but
didn't look
here's
too
the thing that
bad.
people didn't. Okay, so what people seem to forget was, yes, that game started off 20-0 Cardinals, and then it became 28-0, and then the Giants, stomped back and scored all of those unanswered points. But Joshua Dobbs has something. He's just like, it feels like the first time Nick Mullins came in 2018, before, you know I started hating him. It feels like he
Mm,
has that kind of like underdog mentality, where he's not gonna be let anyone else detour his moment. Like, he knows that Kyler Murray is the franchise right now, and maybe they stay with him, maybe they don't. But he feels like that Cooper Rush story last year, where it's the backup quarterback, and he's gonna do whatever it takes, and he's not gonna tank. And I think those kind of teams are the more dangerous teams,
right.
especially when it's a rival.
Yeah. And see, that's what I'm thinking about, Melissa. Everybody's like, oh, we got this. We got this. Well, maybe we do, but I
I'm
wouldn't
not
take it
saying that we
lightly.
don't. I'm just
No,
because
no, I understand that.
20
But I'm just saying, like,
2018 is my favorite season, and that seems weird because a 4-win season shouldn't really be your favorite season, but but it's my favorite season
Jane.
because, okay, for many reasons. Okay, so it's that first game where we finally beat Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll together. Like, for years they just destroyed us, and that was
Mhm.
the first season that ever happened. Um, George Kittle almost got 210. Oh, he did get 210 yards in one half of football, and uh he could have broken Shannon Sharp's record against Shannon Sharp's former team. So that was another special thing.
Hmm.
He also ended up being the tight end to break the record for all yards on the same day Gronkowski and Kelsey did too.
Right.
Um, and we had the last Battle of the Bay. So for all those reasons, that season's really special to my heart. Um, but I also remember the one thing that I hated the most about that year was that Steve Wilkes, as the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, his only 2 wins that year just happened to be against the San Francisco 49ers with Josh Rosen. So,
Hmm.
it, especially in divisional games, like, in my mind, we should blow these teams out. But at the same time, our history reminds us that we can't take these games too lightly, because even in years where we thought Seattle was garbage, they still swept us.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh,
So,
yeah. Exactly. No, I agree with you. I agree with you. And that was my whole premise behind the conversations, that
yeah.
what I saw the Cardinals, they look pretty good. They look pretty tight. So, yeah, I want us to win, and I hope we get another 30 points.
Mhm.
Uh, that would be really nice.
That would be.
Um, but, again, we got this young quarterback. We got going up against another young quarterback. It's going to be a game. It's going to be really interesting to see just what both offenses do, because some of their who is it, the wide receiver, that dude, all I saw was a head and legs. I don't even think he had a body. I was just like, okay, I saw a helmet and I saw these legs going down a field. I'm like, well, damn.
Who's that?
Wait
Or
a
what's
minute. Excuse me. I need another beer. I just saw something weird. You know, because that like took me out. I'm like, who the hell is that?
that?
But he's a bad dude, whoever it was, with no chest and just a helmet and legs. But he was pretty good. He was pretty good.
Mhm.
So I think they're gonna give us a little run. Excuse me. Now I'm getting that voice is coming back again. Starting to sound like Brenda Vaccaro. Uh, um, it's all Tony's fault. Um, yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting. What happens?
Absolutely. And the divisional games, they're always tough. At the end,
Yeah.
every year, those are the most important games to win. It doesn't matter who might be tougher than the people you're up against in your division. The division games, you play them, twice a year.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's 3
Oh,
games.
exactly.
So,
Mm.
just trying to beat those. And I know it's kind of easier said than done, when you're like, hey, let's sweep the division. But ultimately, if that is, what should be done, because if we're trying to get to a Super Bowl and, the only way that we're going to actually get there is to make sure we're on top of our division,
Mhm.
because we don't want to get stuck in another wild card situation. And,
Oh,
we
no.
don't want to get stuck in a second seed situation either. So,
No,
uh,
not at all. Not at all. Especially with within our division with the Seahawks and I mean, I can't stand them anyway, but I don't want to see them again after we have to play them. Okay, I don't want to see their asses. Oh, excuse me. After we play them in a regular season, they should be done. Bye bye. And let us carry on with Tony. Damn.
I'm so sorry.
No.
We'll be right back after these messages. It's time for a drink.
Yeah, no, it's okay. No, I'm used to it. If I could do morning prayer, I could talk to you like this. The carryover from Thursday night, man, I'm telling you. But yeah, we need to really like snap our division, like get it done in our division.
Mhm.
And because I don't want to see these guys once you
No.
play them in regular season, I don't want to see them again.
Definitely not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because once we sweep them, it's just like that same situation. And I won't go into too much detail, but it's that same situation. You sweep the Rams, you think you got it all figured out, then you face them again for a third time in a year, and you think you've got it made. You think you got the W already in your bag, and then you lose.
Right,
You know,
right.
it's just like we can't go.
Oh,
It doesn't
no.
matter how great of a team you think you are. We can't go into any game thinking we got the win. You
No,
have to
no.
expect the unexpected with all these games, and it's nice
No.
because all of our guys, they're going out there and they're not being overconfident, but you have to have some form of confidence. So they're going out there as a team and as wanting and willing to win, and you can see it, especially with
Right.
our defense and offense.
Right.
I don't think we're doing too bad, even though there's certain things that could change. We don't have those. We don't have the money to go get a franchise quarterback. We don't have the money to get. We can't buy a Super Bowl. We're just not that team. We're not the Rams. So we work hard and we earn it. And that's what the Niners do. They work hard and they earn it. Because at the
Yeah.
end of the year, why do we go and win, 2, 3, 4, 5 Super Bowls and a couple of them in a row? Because our guys humbly come together, they work hard, and the organization, call them cheap. They won't go out and go on a limb and go buy everybody. But sometimes
Yeah.
it's okay. Sometimes it's
Here's
all
what I
right.
Here's the other reason why I think this game is so important. Arizona Cardinals have been stealing a lot of Niner players. And I think we have to remind them that you might take them, but they were ours first, and we're not going to let you get away with it. Because for me, it started with Josh Hokett, and now it's Conscious Night, and it feels like every time the Niners aren't ready or they have a bigger issue, whether it's offensive line or safety or linebacker or defensive line or whatever we make more room for on our roster because of years past being depleted in that position. So they put more emphasis on that for the 53. It feels like we let go of all these wonderful players because we're like, oh, they're going to be safe in the practice squad. And then they're not.
Right.
And
Right.
it feels like this one's a bit more personal, and we need to remind the
Yeah.
Cardinals where they belong.
Yeah, exactly. They need to be put in their little cage. Okay. Like Tweety Bird. You're hanging on a rafter in a cage. All right.
That's
You
right.
flew out for a while. Now fly back.
And it should help that Buddha and Biker's not playing in this game.
Yeah.
I don't care how they look. I always fear Buddha Baker.
Yeah.
And they don't
It's
have
not.
Hopkins.
It's
What's
not.
his name? Andre Hopkins. They don't have him anymore,
Yeah.
do they?
No, he's a tight end.
So
Really?
that
He's Yeah, he got signed by the Titans right before the year started, I think. There was
So
the
that
Okay.
discussion. There was that discussion if he was going to become a Patriot or go down to Mike Vrabel, and he went down with Mike Vrabel and Aziz Al-Shaair and all the other guys, Arden Key and all the other ones that are down there.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Okay.
it should be interesting because I think the Cardinals are that one team that no matter how bad their roster is, they'll surprise you when they want to play hard and when they don't. It reminds me of the Lions and the Commanders. For so many years, you would like write these teams off like this is not going to be a team, and then they come out and they like what? Like they put that on that team,
Mm-hmm.
and I think this is that kind of trap
Mm-hmm.
game because we had 2 games in a week, and then we're going to the Cardinals, and then the week after is that big Sunday night football match up against the Cowboys, and
Oh
everyone's
Lord.
circling that game.
Uh,
They haven't even finished week 3, and they're already talking Niners Cowboys.
yeah.
So
I know.
I hope it's not that kind of like trap game in between, where it's been so on, and then there's like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I got 2 dear friends who I adore and I love, and they are diehard Cowboy fans. And it's like I love you guys. They always cheer for the Niners for me, and I cheer for them at times, but from afar.
Mhm.
I said, but baby, week 5, I don't like you.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think it's gonna be the true
it's
test.
war.
Mhm.
I need this game to be
Yeah,
as dominated over as ever because it's not even the players I dislike at this point. It's everybody else talking about the Cowboys that makes me so sick. Like
yeah.
they're forgetting what the Niners defense is, and they just keep talking like they're the 2000 Buccaneers or something, and
Well, you
everyone
got to
keeps
remember that.
calling,
Yeah, you got to remember
everyone
too. The
keeps
Niners.
calling,
Yeah,
everyone
Niners
keeps
and
calling,
Cowboys
and everyone keep
rivalry.
yeah, and everyone keeps calling Micah Parsons the new Lawrence Taylor. It just like it sickens me. Like it's like, do you forget who was on our defensive line? And they keep saying like they had the best front seven. Is there a single linebacker? I don't even think our backups are on the level of the backups on the Cowboys or the starters for that matter. Like, I would take Oren Burks over any starting linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys. I don't even know anyone
Uh-huh.
aside from Micah Parsons who lines up at linebacker sometimes. Like, and everyone's trying to say that they're the better defensive line in front seven, and I'm like, you do know that Chris Kacerek works in the Bay, right? Like, so I think there's a lot of pride up on the next 2 weeks.
And whoever said Parsons is like a LT, uh-uh, uh-uh,
That's ESPN.
uh-uh.
They've been trolling that since the day he came into the league.
I remember LT. Ain't no way in hell. Excuse me. No, no.
Oh my god, I'm laughing so hard my phone keeps falling over.
Yeah,
Damien, I'm running low, Damien.
so I'm definitely not concerned with our defense. I know there's certain things that our defense needs to do as far as like when it comes to running quarterbacks. And I know we should be talking about the Cardinal game, but I'm going to jump ahead just for just a second. Dak Prescott, when the going gets tough for him, we know he starts running. And it just would be nice to know that our offense by that time, or excuse me, our defense at that time would be able to somehow develop some sort of scheme where they can just kind of translate throughout the rest of the season to not let these quarterbacks run on us because when they do, they're either running the ball in for their own touchdown, getting first downs, just setting us back. Just when you think you're going to get a 3 and out, then they go ahead and get that first down, and it's just crazy. I'm not looking forward to the Cowboy game, that's for sure.
No, me either. Me
I
either.
am.
I'm just, I'm glad that hump in our schedule will be over and I can go back to talking and loving my friends again. You know,
Until then, it's like,
yeah, until then, you ain't on my phone.
mhm.
I know that I know for me, I had outlandish predictions for this game because I wanted it so bad against the Giants. My dad's been chirping all year, and so when we saw that this was week 3, this got personal for us. But at the same time, I think the misconception is that this defense hasn't really been fighting on all cylinders because we're not getting a bunch of sacks or a bunch of pass breakups, or Fred Warner's not like punching out the ball crazy like he has the last couple years. Um,
Mm,
so I think a lot of people are like, well, we don't really like this soft zone or this prevent defense or this what we think that should be happening isn't happening. And I get a bit aggravated too, but at the same time, I really like the Steve Wilkes defense. I think for years, and especially what you guys brought up earlier was the SC championship game against the Rams. Like those kind of games were decided based on our secondary,
mhm.
being sloppy or not catching balls or letting big plays happen. And I feel like the thing that Steve Wilkes is doing now is he's trying to blend what he does well with what we do well, and then teams taking it a step further by begging him for certain calls, even from the box. Like we were lining up like 5 or 6 guys on our defensive line at times. Like these are things that the players are asking for. So it's not just that Wilkes is just putting his foot down and like screwing up everything and keeping us from playing Niner defense. These guys are asking for this stuff, and I feel like he's also bringing that toughness and that grown up attitude where he's helping every single defensive back with all their issues. I mean, we're not seeing the misfire tackling or the hot headed or too excited Talanoa Hufanga who kind of like upset us at the end of last year. Like they're being way more gap disciplined. They're being way more priority disciplined. They're staying in their lanes, and everyone kept saying like even in pregame last week, that Daniel Jones was going to run on us for like 50 plus yards, and it didn't happen. And if you want to say it's because they lost Saquon Barkley or because their offensive line was hurt or whatever, you could say that, but you could also see that we covered. Like there weren't that many opportunities for him to do that. In fact, the only time where there was really a quarterback running on us was Tyrod Taylor later in the game because we were just by then, both backups were in. Like it wasn't a game
Mhm.
anymore. But um that's what gives me hope because like that used to be one of the things that used to absolutely kill us. Like to the point where our team was calling Kyler Murray the little chipmunk. You can't get that little chipmunk down. Like Eric Armstead every year like would have a new nickname for Kyler Murray because he was the little speedster that would get out on them. And it feels like as much as we might want all these beautiful fantasy or big electric plays, like at at the end of the day, they're playing as a team. And if you can't enjoy that, I don't know what to tell you because it's just like even on Talanoa Hufanga's interception this game, you had Fred Warner tip it up to him, and then guys would usually used to celebrate or clap or like cheer on the guy while the one guy was running. And now they're like all huddling together in a formation and trying to make him a bubble to get more yardage on it.
Mhm.
Mhm.
The same thing with when Ronnie Bell got the tip pass. It's just, the team is not doing the celebrations anymore. They're trying to make the most out of each turnover. So it's just like at the end of the day, it's just a different time. Hi, David.
Hi.
Hey, David. Thank you.
I completely forgot where I was going with that. I'm sorry. I was just like, who's that? Oh, David. I saw the glasses.
Yeah, we've been hosting
Yeah.
a special guest, and it's been a lot of
I
fun.
know.
Well, the team is playing more cohesively, and their coverage is getting better. And I'm glad because it did shut a lot of naysayers up
Mhm.
as part of the expecting what Daniel Jones was going to do. But
Yeah.
it did shut a lot of people up, and I'm glad about that. So our coverage is getting better, and we're playing more cohesively, and trying to
You know,
make things work. And I think we got a chance. I really
we're
do.
not getting false start
Yeah.
penalties anymore. That's
Yeah.
huge.
Yes. Thank
You remember
God.
Oh,
how many times
Don't,
either
Melissa. Don't talk about. Yeah.
okay, but it needs
Siete.
to be
No.
called about because it was
Silencio.
always
Silencio, por favor.
yeah.
uh, okay. I'm not gonna mention it. I was just gonna mention that it was really nice to see Tony and Bex and Jess and all those pictures that got shared along with David and the
Yes.
rest of them.
That
It
Yes.
was
was
And
really
so
nice to
awesome.
see those ladies of the
Mhm.
Empire meetups as well, those pictures that were shared.
Mhm.
yeah, there
It
was.
was
Yeah, I got to meet Tony in person, and I got to meet Jess in person.
mhm.
Uh, Bex and I and Peachy hung out at well, we Peachy and I didn't hang out, but I saw Bex at a lot of events in Pittsburgh, so kept running into each other. So it was really pretty cool.
And you know what I will say? Jess and Bex are the same exact lady in person as they are on the show.
Oh, I
And
know,
it's
I know. I looked over. I thought it was Beck, and I said, I looked at. She says, Dana, and I said, yeah.
I heard her voice first, and, we were all in this big group, and I heard her, and I was, like, stopping talking, and I'm like, "Wait a second, I need to hear that again." And then I find the back of her head, and I'm like, "Is that her?" So I walk in front of her, she's talking to Jess, and I'm like, "Bex." She gave me a big ol' hug.
Yep.
It was so
Yeah,
cool. And Jess, she knew me. She either noticed Bryant first or myself, but we were plenty of feet away from her, and she's smiling and waving and like, "Oh my god, it's Jess." It
yeah,
was so fun, and it was quite the experience, and I'm just hoping that it just carries on throughout this entire season because
yeah. It should. Excuse me. It should. It really should. If I could hit the lottery and get some more money and maybe bribe my boss to get some time off, I could go to some more
Mhm.
games.
Right. Like, I'm calling in sick, I think. Calling
Yeah,
in sick in advance.
yeah.
I call
Kind of
in
makes it
one
bad though, you
Okay,
know.
so if
yeah.
you could go to any
Yeah.
game this year, what would it be? Just regular season. If you could like pick any game to go to.
Mm. I'll look at my calendar. I'll think
Well,
of one.
the one that I really wanted to go to, but it's going to be in at Levi. I wanted to see the Ravens game, but on the East Coast.
On the East Coast.
Uh, yeah. I could torture my nephew. He's a Ravens fan.
That's gonna be an incredible game, and honestly, I'm hoping by that time, everybody's gelling as far as if you're a Niner, and I'm hoping that I just hope they blow the Ravens out of here. Give them a good
Yeah, man.
remind them,
Pluck that
if
Raven.
yeah,
You know.
pluck that Raven, give them a little skin
Nevermore.
to go.
Nevermore.
That's right. 'Cause, yeah, that's the one game that I believe like, the Seahawks are annoying, but there's one team for sure that's more annoying, and then that's the Ravens. And it just stems back to the Super Bowl loss.
No,
it's
please.
the Chiefs are next. The Chiefs are next. Patrick
Yeah.
Mahomes coming for you, okay?
Oh
So,
yeah. Mm.
My hatred of the Ravens is way before the Super Bowl. My hatred for the Ravens goes all the way back to when it was the 59 race, or sorry, 52 race, and they would always compare Clay Matthews, Patrick Willis, and Ray Lewis,
Oh
and
yeah.
how they would always dismiss Patrick, and now Patrick's not in the hall and Ray is, and it just to this day I will never ever get over. And then right when Ray Lewis finally retires after that damn Super Bowl, then they have to go and dismiss Patrick Willis for Luke Kuechly. It's just like, oh, he wasn't even on Kuechly's level. Like, it's just like, forever I am
Yeah.
gonna hate John Harbaugh. And then for years it went away. And then it came
Yeah.
back because Greg Roman
Yeah.
became the freaking coordinator. And
Yep.
then they have the freaking 14-2 season, and we lose to them in a gritty game in the rain on the East Coast. And you can't help but think if it wasn't Robbie Gold coming back off injury, kicking in the rain, or if it wasn't for Jimmy G, like you could have won that game. And it's just so the Ravens always feels personal. Um,
Yeah.
but for me, if I could go to any game, I would want to go to the Cincinnati game, even if it doesn't have
Mhm.
Joe Burrow. Just because
Mhm.
there's this one
You
game
got to watch
on,
Cincinnati.
there's that one game on YouTube from 2021 where we faced them, and
Mm.
I love watching that game. I love watching George Kittle where he like bends himself in that crazy like almost like question like pose to go up for that big down that goes to the field goal, and then Robbie Gold of course misses. And it was that game where Juwan Jennings finally got some respect because he had that
Mm.
big like drives. He kept pulling them in overtime.
Yeah.
Um, so that for me would be special because I love their defense. I love their offense. I love Joe Mixon. I'm probably one of the few people who actually loves watching Joe Mixon run because he reminds me of those players that are on teams that have bad luck and then they just get so unappreciated once the superstars come in, and
Right.
he's just still doing his thing. So that for me would be a special game to attend and get to see all those players and go up against each other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year. It's going to be an interesting year. It
And
really is.
one more thing. So the
Mm.
Niners have been picking up a couple of quarterbacks because Sam Womack, with his injury and a couple other injuries,
And
um,
Ambry is
and
also injured
Ambry,
with the
Ambry
knee injury.
Thomas. So now we have the Niners looking again at Jason Verrett.
Yeah, I saw that.
So do we think the Niners are going to give him another opportunity despite the situation we had to go through, or his unfortunate situation? He has a situation that's a little worse than Mitchell. Mitchell's been hurt quite often too, but Verrett has spent,
Yeah.
fortunately, year after year.
Yeah, and that's what worries me. I mean, given his track record with us and his health and but when he's healthy, there's no stopping dude.
Absolutely.
But the minute he's injured, it's like, oh,
There's another year gone.
now we're back to square one. Oh
Mhm.
man. Um yeah, that kind of worries me, but
I,
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see him out there again. But yeah,
I don't.
given his track record.
I
Mm,
really don't mind as long as they don't sign him to a big contract.
Yeah. I like
yeah,
the 1 year
Because
that's
contract,
because this is the last year we're paying D Ford, and I still can't stand that we're still paying D Ford.
and he's not even on the
So
team.
I don't want any more of those.
hell,
I
pay me.
I I really
I'm a
really can't stand those deals where they make these mega deals to these players who have such huge injury backgrounds, and then you have superstars for you who are
Yeah.
playing who mostly stay healthy, who can't even get a 2-year deal out of you. Like you have a Kerry Hyder who's been a multi-year star for you. You've had
Mhm.
Juwan Jennings, a multi-year star for you. You've had I think Kevin Givens. You've had all these guys that keep signing back on 1 year tender after 1 year tender after 1 year tender, or get cut because you have to make the 53 before you sign somebody to the IR, and then they're being brought back. And it's just like, can we stop paying people just to let them get a paycheck of the 49ers? Like, can't you just pay the people who actually come and produce for you week in and week out? Like, that is a big pet
Yeah.
peeve of mine. Um, but Jason Verrett wouldn't be the worst idea, and it's not because I actually think he's going to stay healthy or play. I think that secondary has missed Jimmy Ward, and not in his play, but in his experience. I think you don't have that big, loud vocal leader in the secondary the way you used to.
No, no,
Sean Gibson and Delano who have a bond, but it between the two of them,
it's
it's
not
not
the same.
shared throughout. Mooney Ward gets along with the other corners, but he's not that vocal leader. He's not that guy who's gonna pull them all together. And I think Jason Verrett, whether he frustrated you or not, because of how injured prone he was, he had that thing. He had that, Muhammad's new Pierre Garcon kind of gruffness about him, where he had the good years, he had the bad years, he had the all time highs, he had the all time lows, and he
Hmm.
was one of those guys who got everyone to bond around him. So even when he would get hurt almost first snap of the game in the first game, the guys still fought for him all year.
Mhm.
Right,
So I
right.
think
Well, he had
that,
that camaraderie.
yeah, I think that kind of stuff is invaluable. So, um, and anything never to have to go to Josh Norman again. I cannot stress how much I hated Josh Norman or Deontay Johnson or Kirkpatrick or other corners that we've signed. So, and that's also one of
Yeah.
my hopes is that the next time we go get these guys, whether it's a conscious night or any of these other young corners that we have around, can we keep them on the 53 so they don't get sniped? Because this has been a huge issue since Shanahan's gotten here, that he can't keep these guys healthy.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, our depth can be a
Yeah.
little bit nicer. And I'm hoping that maybe that'll straighten out, as we go on and everybody's a little bit more consistent with the offense and the defense. And hopefully we don't have to rely on too much of second or third stringers. But
Yeah.
if we could, at least it would be nice to know that you're not holding your breath every time they come out there.
No, because if we hold our breath, we won't be breathing.
That's right.
Waiting around for them, we won't be breathing. You might as well just take a deep breath and keep on rolling.
That's right. Well, ladies, we are about an hour and a half in, and we have a very fantastic show.
Yeah, I'm almost empty.
I do want to say thank you, ladies, for coming on, and thank you to everybody in the chat. We are having such a
thank
great
you,
time.
everybody in the chat.
Such a great time, and definitely hoping that when it comes to our next game, when we're versing against those darn Arizona Cardinals, I hope we come back onto the show and talk about another W, because I don't like talking about losses unless it's somebody else that's losing.
There you go. There you go. No, we don't talk about losses.
That's right.
Ew.
So, can I ask you guys one question before we log off?
Mm-hmm.
When do you think George Kittle gets his first touchdown?
It's got to be soon.
I feel like it's 2019 again, and I'm watching every game. I'm like, is it this game? Is it this game? Like, it took him to like week 5 against the Browns coming off bye, because so many of his touchdowns were called back due to penalty. And now this year, they're just like not locating him at all. And I can't help but think, is it because he stole Ray Ray's touchdown last year? Like, can we just get George Kittle one touchdown?
And I think that kind of goes on because a lot of times when Kittle's on the field, he's blocking. So sometimes we don't get to see him out there to go make a catch. But then I also know that Brock Purdy, if he's either under pressure and he misses a lot of people that are open down the field, especially Kittle when he's usually in the middle or outside line, that does hurt us. So if Purdy can have him a good game, pressure is manageable, I believe we should be seeing Kittle utilized a little bit better. But
no, I understand that, because him and Jawan Jennings, either they're being used as decoys or they're being used to eat up 2 or 3 different defenders so somebody else is wide open. And I respect that. And it makes sense because they're both taller and they're both better built, so they can handle that pressure. It's just so many people are so obsessed with sacks or touchdowns or those big flashing number stats that I can't help but want them to at least get one. Like,
if not this game, I would say the Cowboys game.
Absolutely, for sure.
And my other hope is that they finally do away with that dumb rule, because there's no way that Nick Bosa shouldn't have gotten 2 sacks for the Giants game. Like, the very fact that they made a special rule just to deny a sack going and being credited to a player on a failed 2-point conversion.
Yeah, yeah.
It feels like further insult to injury to defensive players.
Mhm.
Well, it is. It is. It sucks,
It does.
and it's uncalled for.
Did you see
I
Brian
don't know. I'm old school
Baldinger?
football.
Did you see Brian Baldinger call out that rule?
Yeah,
I love Baldy.
it's just like
You know, it feels like
but
he's like the
still,
one person who's like trying to do his job and like not have any biases. But Baldy's always like that first person. Like he gets so excited when he watch Niners game that he doesn't even have like the official copies yet. He's like filming it with
no,
his phone and breaking it down because he's like, I have to do this right away because I love the Niners so much.
yeah, I love the Niners too. That's why we need to get off of here so I can go to bed. I gotta
Well,
serve at the altar tomorrow morning. Bad enough I'm sounding reading the lessons going, and that's the word of the Lord.
well, thank you again, ladies, and thank you again, everybody in the chat. You have definitely been a lot of fun. I hope everybody's going to have a great rest of your Sunday. I hope this week goes by nice. The Niners get another W for us to experience and enjoy together. And
Yeah.
with that being said, I hope everybody has a great rest of their evening. And we will see you again. And if you'd like to tune in, we're here Saturday nights, 5 p.m. California time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. So tune in next time. And thank you again. And thank you, ladies. And I hope you have a
Go
great rest of your evening.
Niners.